Fanzone, united by the game, powered by Moore's World of Sport.
Welcome back to Fanzone, your hottest destination for all Zimbabwean sport. We're bringing you passion, drama, and non-stop action here in the Fanzone studio. My name is Sips.
And I'm Steve Vickers. What a weekend in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League. Moors 3 points clear now after a last gasp winner, Everson Faremba against Bikita Minerals. Caps United winning the big derby at Rufaro Stadium against Scotland. Lots to talk about there. And the badge deserves better, says Dynamo's Emmanuel Jalai as they slump to yet another defeat. What are their chances of surviving relegation? So much to talk about on the show this week. And welcome back to Larry Mangenje, who was on episode 1 of Fanzone. Hi, Larry.
How are you, Steve? It's good to be here. Good to be back, eh?
Yeah, you were at the Scotland game?
Yes, I was at the Scotland game, indeed.
So we'll dig into that. Larry, sports journalist, and Farai Dhliwayo is a coach and a manager of the Legends Academy. Hi, Farai.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Wow, you've got an impressive CV. Douglas Mafumo, a Warriors forward who came through the Legends Academy. We'll find out about how academies work and what a football career looks like these days as well. So you've got loads of knowledge to share with us, Farai.
Yeah, if we don't take care of the kids who are coming up, we're not going to have any good football going forward.
Yeah, it's a process.
Oh, there's so much to talk about and a really engaging conversation to be had. But without keeping you guys waiting any longer, let's dig into that Matchday 19 Roundup. The biggest match over the weekend for Matchday 19 was definitely Scotland versus Caps United at Rufaro Stadium. Some could even argue it was the same level as Moors Scotland. Was it bigger in terms of the game? Maybe not, but definitely the biggest game of the weekend. Steve, a lot of drama happening there. A disallowed goal in the final minutes of extra time from Tapera. A great goal from Chris Mugalu to put Caps ahead. What are your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, well, I mean, it even started midweek with the social media battle where there were jabs against each other on their social media handles. So this game had an edge. There was a good turnout for the game. It was a good quality contest. Caps could have had more goals, actually. Scotland simply not firing. Terence Jukamanja, great to see him in the PSL now, coming back from South Africa. 4 big new signings were on display. So it was a good game. Larry, you were there as well. What were your thoughts on the contest?
Oh, it was a big game, eh? Decent crowd as well. Very, very entertaining game. Chris Mugalu, big goal on the big stage. Well, very, very disappointing result from a Scotland perspective. You could tell by the manner in which Tondela Indira spoke after the game. You could also tell by the way in which their owner, that is their club president, Honorable Sakupwanya, left Rufaro Stadium, I think 10 minutes before full time. Perhaps he was not convinced or happy with the manner in which Ndiraya's charges executed themselves. But big result for Caps United and a good football match in summary.
Yeah, so Caps coach Ian Baghali, you can see now that he's moulding his team. It's very different from the team under Lloyd Chitembe, with an out-and-out number 9 as well in Mugalu. Yeah, maybe if Farai, 34-year-old is Mugalu. He's a match winner. You're involved in developing young players. What do you think of a club signing a player that old?
Well, I think the issue that was there is that Caps was struggling. So the coach who's brought in has to get immediate results. And for a coach in that situation, he's looking for a professional player who has done it before. He might not be given the time to develop a young player who might be inconsistent. So he needs a player that he can trust immediately to give a result. In the long term, it's not going to benefit them, but in the short term, it's what they need for results right now.
Yeah, 34 years old, from the DRC. He's been as far as Iraq, a real journeyman. He's been around, and he didn't make many contributions, but he made the one that counted heading in there. So, yeah, good game that was, Sips.
Yeah, definitely the match winner for Caps to win against Scotland at their home ground. But building up throughout the week, you mentioned the social media admins going head to head. I really enjoyed that, Steve. I think sometimes in Zimbabwe and particularly in Africa, we're taught to be too humble and too respectful. Yes, those are good attributes and traits to have. But, just playing a bit with a bit of gusto and going toe-to-toe and really just bring it to, your opponent's face. If you think you're better, say you're better in a sporting scenario.
Yeah.
And, it brought a different vibe to the players and to the match. It was really intense.
Yeah, and Caps did post almost straight after the final whistle with a gladiator, Bruce Kangwa, with his slain lion victim and the skulls of other victims. And then a bit later on, Scotland also did post saying, well done, it was your day. But that was a great aspect of it.
It was. And this victory for Caps now puts them into 10th. They continue their upward trajectory while Scotland moved down to 5th. And we also, Larry was able to catch up with the head coach of Scotland, Tondorai Ndarai, and he had a couple of words to say from their game. So let's hear what he had to say.
Yeah, I think that has been happening from day one. From day one, I think our team was under pressure, from different quarters. But like I've said, I think the experience that we have in the team should help us. The senior players should help the youngsters. I mean, of course, Scotland as a club has brought some competition to the league, despite it being a new team in the league. And then I don't know what happened last year, but for some reason, people probably supporting every team that we are playing against, and some of them are clearly stating those things. But I mean, we were not there. We are new to this team. We are not thinking about that at all. I think what is important is for us to focus on the job at hand, on what we can control, and what we can control as the coaches and the players is what happens on the pitch. And so far, I think we've done our best to control those things and focus on football. I think look, Scotland is a new team, despite the investment that was done. And naturally, when such an investment is done, the pressure then gets more and more. But naturally, we're a small team with big name players. But that doesn't make us a big team. We are new in the league. We are still learning the ropes. But like I've said, in learning the ropes, we want to win. So we have won games before. We continue to work hard so that we win. And I think the pressure really is about our rivals who are doing very well. And naturally, when your rivals do very well, we came together from Division 1. You also are expected to do very well. But football is not like that. Football is not like that. It's a process. So still so many games to play. We wait for, we follow the process and see what happens.
So you can see that definitely Ndarai is very distraught, and it continues their downward slump that Scotland have had since their loss to Moors. Larry, what does this mean for Ndarai? You can really see that he is struggling and he's not comfortable. Do you think he's going to continue? Is there still a bit of longevity for him as head coach? But also, what does this mean now for Scotland, that loss?
Oh, there's a lot of pressure on him. That's for sure. He said things that we never thought we could hear him say. Talking about what happened last year in the Northern Region Soccer League, talking about how people hate the team because of what happened last year. Those are things that you would never expect to hear from a coach. Talking about the comparison with Moors, they are both Premiership debutants, and Scotland is supposedly getting a lot of pressure simply because Moors is doing well. You can actually see from the manner in which he speaks, his body language tells a lot. There's a lot of pressure. Scotland have won only one of their last 8 matches, which is strange considering the kind of investment and the expectation on the Premiership new boys. So yeah, a lot of pressure for Ndarai were visibly there from the manner in which you are speaking.
Yeah, it certainly also doesn't help that Scott left the game early and walked out of the stadium. Yeah, that's not going to be good for the morale of the coach or the team. But another notable game, a huge upset on Saturday, was the game between Dynamos and Herentals. Herentals coming over 2-0. continued misery for Dynamos. It's not looking up.
Yep, absolutely. You can even say Herentals might have actually been slight favourites going into that game, given how Dynamo's are playing. Tino Benza took the chance well that came his way, latching onto a free kick. Not the cleanest finish, but he got the job done. And then Shadrach Nyawa with an own goal, which was pretty comical, really, firing past his own keeper from about 8 yards out. It's really concerning, Farai, when Dynamos have only got 2 wins all season.
Yeah, I was very surprised when they let go of their old coach and brought in the new coach. I don't know that the new coach is known for saving teams from relegation. They were limited in the number of players that they currently have, and it was always going to be an uphill task. Dynamos is such a big brand, it can attract big players, but right now if you look at the stats, what I always look at is how many wins you have, how many goals you're scoring.
Yeah.
When those two things are low, it's pointing in one direction.
Yeah, so Larry, Dynamo's captain Emmanuel Jalai, he and Shadrach Nyawa were the 2 best players this season, probably only players of note really, but Jalai posted to say the badge deserves better.
Yeah, it was a heartfelt plea from a usually very reserved player who really speaks, eh? It speaks volume of the crisis at Dynamos. Like you rightly said, 2 wins all season. Relegation is clearly a possibility. I was speaking to their former captain, Memo Rimchiro, last week. He was actually adamant that Dynamos can actually not only get relegated, but it can go defunct, according to him. So those are strong words, and they speak volume of a crisis in the blue half of the city.
Yeah, I didn't believe it at first, but we're past the halfway stage now, Sips, and it is a strong possibility that Dynamos might go down.
It will definitely be a turning point in Dynamo's history in Zimbabwean football. Oh, it's going to be a tougher finish for towards the season for them. But Steve, we've got something new and exciting in the Fanzone studio, and in this episode we're going to be starting a team of the week. And the Fanzone admin, we've put our heads together and we've gathered what we think was the best team of the week after match day in 19. So Steve, give us the list and the breakdown. We'll discuss it together.
Yeah, tell us what you think about this. You can post your comments. So Talbot Shumba, the Scotland goalkeeper, yes, he was on the losing side, but he made some really good saves, including a superb save moving out to the right, a one-handed save. So he kept the scoreline down. In defence, we've got Bruce Kangwa. He's been immense for Caps in the last 2 games. Moores, another clean sheet, so captain Tefanzwe Nyabunze and Valentine Katsande there. Midfield, Fanwell Shoko, ZPC Kariba, a world-class free kick to equalise against Simba Bora. Absolutely superb that was. Marvellous Mukumba getting the winner for Ngezi Platinum Stars. Another big performance from Moore's midfielder, Tino Muchikambizi. Nyasha Chintuli really played well for Caps United in midfield. As an attacking midfielder, he was working so hard and making a nuisance of himself. Tino Benza scoring for Herentals. The Namibian Isaskar Gurirab for Simba Bora, his 6th goal of the season. He's delivering, and definitely Chris Mugalu, the Caps scorer, has to be up there as well. I thought there was good quality play there from Caps against Scotland, Larry.
Yes, they played so well. You can actually see that it's different from how Lloyd Tembe wanted them to play. There's a lot of fluidity and there's a lot of attack going forward. Ishmael Wadi, unfortunately not to make the matchday 11, the team of the week, but was brilliant on the left wing. So there's a lot in terms of how Caps are playing now, and you can actually see their resurgence is on account of that.
Yeah, Tanaka Shandira also played really well for Caps United. So you tell us what you think. This is our assessment from the weekend's games, our team of the week. You can post your comment. Tell us what you think about our 11 there.
So that brings us to the end of the PSL standings, the match day and 19 roundup. But Division 1, always lots of drama. Northern, Central, Eastern, Southern as well. Steve, give us a rundown of what is happening in that Division 1.
So the movers and shakers in Division 1, Mount Darwin-based Agama, the biggest movers in the northern region, moving level on points with log leaders at Nombe Iwara on 38 points, second on goal difference after beating FC Oden 1-0. And Nombe Iwara dropped points again, drawing 1-0 with bottom side Moors under 19. And Black Rhinos, their first defeat of the season, losing 1-0 to fourth from bottom Chinhoy Stars. In the southern region, Nkai United moved to top. They beat Bosso 93-1. Dhliwayo Chiefs dropping into second, a point behind Indai United. They drew 1-1 against third-placed Hwange. And Black Rock, coached by former Highlanders and Warriors midfielder Mtulisi Mapasa, remained fourth, although they lost 1-0 to Imbizo. In the central region, Shesham maintained a 6-point lead ahead of Hard Rock. They beat Shabani Mine 3-2 at home. Hard Rock recovered from midweek defeats to Chapungu to beat Zimbabwean United 2-0. Now, we told you Hard Rock were going to make signings. They have signed Blessing Sahondo from Tel 1, Tinashe Mashaya Reni from Chicken Inn, and Simbarashe Verenga, who was the leading scorer in the Eastern region with FC Hunters. In the Eastern region, just a couple of games, catch-up matches. It was a break otherwise. Tenax closed on top after a 1-0 win, closing the first half of the season. They beat Deportivo La Murambinda 1-0, and Masvingo United beat Wangu Mazodze 1-0. That's how it's looking in Division 1 there, Sips.
So definitely interesting results from Division 1. We're seeing Moors under 19 take on Nomeaora. Sorry about the pronunciation. I will get it right by the end of the season. But a 1-1 draw. So definitely lots of going on there. First place versus last place and a draw. But Farai, we're seeing a lot of teams have developed an under 19 side. What are some advantages of doing that?
Well, the advantages are straightforward. If you have a development team and you have younger players who you want to break into your first team, it's a place where they can play competitive football. Unfortunately, a lot of these clubs that are called under 19 are not actually under 19 teams. They've got a lot of experienced players who are playing within that squad, and it limits the number of young players who are supposed to play. The idea is noble, but we need to really ensure that the kids get the opportunity to play. If you are a Premier League team with one of those younger teams, it should really be a place where you develop your players. So the most important is play time and ensure that the young players get game time.
Well, yes, definitely an interesting outlook on the under-19 side, that they're actually not under-19s. But we were able to catch up with Arthur Gorejena and Vincent Nzombe from the Golden Eagles versus Pam match, where Golden Eagles won 2-0.
I think we are coming from a very difficult pitch here, if you can say that again. We have not been winning probably for the past 4 games coming backwards. But of course, we managed to collect 3 in a row for now. Credit goes to the boys. We managed to bring confidence to each other that, we are a good team. We are capable to come back again. We have done before 5 games in a row, and I think we are in a good pitch.
Yeah, my players were not tracking, so it was easier for that other team to penetrate us.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sure after the break, things will be okay, because there are some players whom I'm bringing in.
So you can definitely see the morale from Arthur Gorejena. He's very happy. 2 wins from 2 games after replacing Philip Sitole, and Vincent Nzombe not very happy. They were in the top 6 last year, but they have fallen below that line. So Steve...
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough being a coach.
Yeah, it's just so competitive for Division 1 with only 1 slot up to the Premier League, obviously.
Yeah, I think people don't really realize how competitive it is in Division 1. And the differences between the teams is very small. And it's very difficult to get that 1 slot to make it up. So we see many good teams, even teams that have been developed really well, struggling year on year trying to make it up. So yeah, Division 1 is really good right now.
Yeah, really tough.
Well, with the match days rounded up in the PSL and Division 1, let's start looking ahead at what will be going on in the PSL match day 20. Well, after a spectacular match day 19, match day 20 surely will hope to continue the trend. We are seeing Enzi, who are currently in 3rd place, taking on a reeling Scotland, who have dropped to 5th. Larry, what are your thoughts on this game and the possible outcomes?
Yeah, that's another stand test for Scotland. If you remember, Enzi were actually the first team to beat Scotland in the reverse fixture, and in the way things are going at Scotland right now, I expect them also to struggle against Enzi. Enzi playing at home. They've been good there. They actually beat Moors there. They were the first team to stop Moors at the Baobab. So another stand test for Twendera Indai, one which I hope he overcomes. Otherwise, his future will be shrouded in uncertainty.
Yeah, I must say Terence Jukamanja's good, though. He played really well in Sunday's game. Nice flicks, good attacking play. Maybe he'll be a factor, Larry?
Indeed, maybe. Yeah, Terence, like you rightly said, excellent player. Good movement off the ball, good technique. I think the only problem with him at the present moment is that he was inactive for the last 2 months. He hasn't played football, hey? But like you rightly said, he can be decisive against Ngezi, hopefully from a Scotland viewpoint.
So it sounds like you've got a shred of hope for Scotland, Steve. What would your prediction be?
Yeah, I just think they're going to click at some point. But to win at Ngezi, that's a big ask. Maybe 1-1.
1-1. And for you, Larry?
Yeah, I'll go for a draw as well. Because surely Scotland cannot afford to lose this game, eh? So at least they will probably want to get at least a point out of it.
Yeah, I think Ngezi are doing really well on the upward trend. They've moved into third. They're scoring goals. I'm going to give it 1-0 for Ngezi. Farai, are you allowed to comment on who you think will win?
Well, we got two managers who've both won the Premier League. Tondrain Draya used to be Ngezi. He couldn't win the title when he was there. The coach, both of them have won. I see Ngezi winning 2-0.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think the comments of Tondrain Draya after his last game, talking about a small team with big players, it's a coded message. I think what he's saying is that even though they have good players at Scotland, there's something wrong in the structure, and that might not be easy to overcome.
Yeah, well, Ngezi will definitely look to take advantage of the team morale, kick Scotland while they're down and continue the downward trend. But the next game, which should be looking at a couple of headlines, is Talwan taking on Dynamos. Talwan in 4th, Dynamos in 16th. Not very good, as we've seen. Continued misery. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Washington Navai has gone for trials for Talwan, so they won't be to full strength by the looks of it. But yeah, and now I think if you're doing the predictor, you're going to predict Dynamos not to score many goals in any games, and I'd give this to Talwan by 1-0.
They're struggling to score goals, Dynamos, and it's been shown throughout the whole season, Larry.
Indeed, like Steve rightly said, Washington Navaya, his absence, I doubt though if it will actually affect the overall outcome of the game. Tewana, a quality side with a very, very good coach in Herbert Maroa. He's facing his former side as well. So I expect Dynamos to continue struggling, and I expect a win for the Gweru-based Tewan.
Yeah, it's definitely looking that way. But Farai, you're a coach. You've seen Dynamo struggle throughout the whole season. What do you think needs to happen in that Dynamos camp? How do they reset and restructure to possibly get themselves out of relegation?
Well, the fortunate thing is that the transfer window is open. So if they can get signings in before the weekend, they need some leaders. 5 slots, you need at least 3 leaders and 2 maybe youth players with energy. Something to bring some dynamism to the team. But like the rest of you, I only see one direction, Talwan winning that game.
I mean, they're not going to attract a foreign player like Caps or Scotland getting somebody coming back home from South Africa, are they?
I think you could never count out Dynamos. Dynamos is a big name. It is possibly one of the biggest names in Zimbabwean football. It's about whether or not the executive are willing to reach out to someone. There are a lot of players who are out of contract now. It's about figuring out and making quick decisions, because the longer you leave this and the longer it's bleeding, the closer it is to death.
Who's going to want to join Dynamos, Larry? Simbabora want to strengthen. We heard that here on Fanzone a few weeks ago. They want to sign players ahead of the CAF Champions League. Who would be a target for Dynamos right now?
If I were them, I would probably reach out to a player like Wisdom Mutasa. Wisdom Mutasa is a free agent. He's back in the country. They just need someone who has got the muscle to actually make things happen, Somebody in the mode of Emmanuel Jalai, a player who puts his heart out for the badge. That is what they need at the present moment. So perhaps Wisdom, being their former player, can actually make some changes to the manner in which Dynamos play.
Wow. Watch this space. I think it's going to be interesting, Sips.
It will be. But with Match Day 20 coming up this weekend, let's take a look at that predictor leaderboard from Match Day 19. So the 2 favourites, Icon 505 and Simba, have once again switched positions. This time round it's Icon of 505 who sits at the top. Simba falls slightly behind him, just 2 points behind. And then Pacey remains at 3rd place. And between the 3 of them, between 1st place and 3rd, there's just 5 points dividing each other. In 5th place, we see Savino, who's climbed up from 9th. And we're seeing a brand new face, Peter Machacha, who's currently in 9th place. So well done to all of you in the top 10, but also to everyone who is participating. It's not always about winning, but we love everyone who has participated. Thank you. Continue to predict. You might be eligible for some sweepstake prizes if you make sure you do your predictions. But Steve, again, good weekend for Predictor.
Yeah, so Sips, you correctly predicted Highlanders' shock goalless draw against Quaker United.
Yeah.
Wow. Guess what I did? It happens to everyone during the season. I forgot the deadline. I forgot to get my Saturday predictions in. I only did the Sunday games, although, hey, those Saturday games are difficult to predict it correctly anyway. But, so need to set a reminder on your phone to get your predictions in good time.
Yeah, that's very true. And I had a very good predicting weekend in the Fanzone admin section, coming third. Got 3 correct predictions, and even managed to get a joker on one of them. That was the Moors, the Bikita game, the 1-0 win. So very happy about that result. But if you feel like you have football knowledge, head on over to fanzone.co.zw, sign yourself up for the Predictor. If you haven't already, I'm sure if you've been watching and keeping up with the Fanzone podcast, you should be on that Predictor. But with the Predictor wrapped up, let us look to Beyond the Pitch, where we take a break from the PSL.
We are digging into youth development on Beyond the Pitch this week on Fanzone. Farai Dhliwayo joins us. He runs the Legends Academy and has got an amazing CV. The Legends Academy has produced the likes of Douglas Mafumo, playing in South Africa, Warriors forward. He's been in the squad for the past couple of years since our comeback from that FIFA suspension. Also Denzel Mapua playing for Green Fuel. Callum English Brown, also currently outside of the country. He's come through the Legends Academy, which has an agreement with Everton in the English Premier League, and also has visited the Cristiano Ronaldo Academy. So much for you to share with us, Farai. First of all, what does a career in football look like these days? Because we know people say, I want to play for Manchester United, or I want my boy to leave the country and play for Liverpool or play for Chelsea. What exactly should a career in football look like if you do think you can make it as a pro?
Yeah, well, the first thing to note is that football is the greatest sport in the world. It's Zimbabwe's number one sport. There's many things that come, many positives that come from participating in football as a young person. Not everyone is going to become a professional footballer, but there's a lot of advantages from playing football. So beyond the professional players that we make, we also have kids who have gone to university, got a lot of discounts, especially in America, from being good footballers to be able to finish college and get degrees and get jobs. It's a good place to ensure that your young players come and stay out of trouble, because every week they are at training. I've never known any of our young footballers to drink or smoke, because on Sunday, when you have to run in a full match, you notice it straight away. These are some of the positives on that side. And if we're going to have better football in the country, we've got to start by developing better players. And we're talking about starting from a player from 5 years old up until he's about 18. I know that's when you guys start jumping on board to say, look at this talent. But, how do you keep a 5-year-old interested in football for 12 years before you see him maybe even breaking into the pros? So they've got to stay enthusiastic about the sport, focused and dedicated to training. Once we're able to get that done, then yes, there are some talents that become really good professional players. And the whole idea is, how do we make better players for not only our leagues, but also for our country.
So healthy habits, you can get a scholarship or part scholarship through football. There are many benefits. Tell us a bit about your setup at the Legends Academy and also your link with Everton as well.
Okay. So at the Academy, we start from kids from the age of 5. We have many different age bands. We have under 9s, under 11s, under 13s, and then the senior teams, under 16, under 18, under 20. I know that a lot of people think that young kids can just automatically transition to professional football. No, it's a long process. In wanting to develop better players, we then formed a partnership with Everton. They saw the work that we were doing, and they said, look, if you want to develop these better players, you can have access to our resources. So you can have access to our academy coaches, access to our training, so that the methods we use over here are the same methods you can use in Zimbabwe to ensure that your players become of a better standard. And we have been seeing that with the players that we are developing.
Okay, I know what you're going to say to this. Are we serious enough about youth football? Is ZIFA serious enough? Are clubs also serious enough?
Well, I think one of the issues we have in Zimbabwe is that we're very educated people, but we're also very impatient people. So I find that the pyramid in Zimbabwe, the football pyramid, is completely upside down. We find that all our funding goes to the senior national team, the professional team, the Warriors, and very little development money or funds go towards the development of young players. If you see a national under 15 or under 17 team, even when they go into camp, they're understaffed, under-resourced. Whereas the countries in the region have understood that development is where it starts. They have that long-term vision that I'm planting the seed today, and the shade is going to be shared by people who, once I'm gone. Mm-hmm. And now what we're finding is when we go to the tournaments, the Southern Region tournaments, teams that never used to give us problems are giving us big problems because they funded their development. Mm-hmm. Teams that we never used to consider to be competition to us are giving us, are booting us out in the first rounds of competition. And the whole view is that there's not enough resources being put into the development of players.
But if I'm going with under 5s, under 7s, those rewards, fruits will only come 15, 20 years from now.
Once you're out of office. And many people who are in office are looking for low-hanging fruit. When you start telling them that, look, invest in these young kids, and maybe 2 terms after you're gone, you'll see the fruit. Not many people are interested in that. I think that's why it's also important to have development coaches, because development of football is very different from competitive football. We were talking about this earlier to say that even in our own Premier League, it's not well suited for young players because everything is results driven. So to give a young player a chance over a number of games, I think a lot of the coaches find that difficult.
Okay. So what age can you thrust in a teenager in the Zimbabwe PSL?
A teenager can join at the age of 17. I think 17 and a half, 18, they can join. The problem is, how many opportunities will that player get? Yeah. If the player comes in and he plays well, and there's another player who's 34, who's experienced, the coach, because there are not many coaches in Zimbabwe who have long tenure. So if you start saying, I want to start developing this 18-year-old, are you going to be around for 4 years until he's the world-class player at 22? Or could you be fired before halfway through the season because you're not getting results? This doesn't really allow for that development process to happen.
But then you got Lamine Yamal at 17.
Yeah, but this is where what we're talking about. He's got 10 good players around him. And when you have 10 good players around you, you can allow that inconsistent talent to play there. And what those clubs understand is that the young players is what brings excitement. It's what brings fans in. It's what brings in the young fans. Here in Zimbabwe, what will happen is that you will have a team of 24 experienced players and the 1 young player, and he will not be given that opportunity to play consistently. Even the old player will say, no, this young man mustn't play. I'm here right now. It's still my time at 33 to be playing.
Yeah. And so you've also touched on the fact that you have a connection to the Everton club overseas. What are clubs overseas at the moment looking for in Zimbabwean athletes?
Well, clubs overseas, you bring up a really good point. Clubs overseas, everything now is scientific in football. So even one of the failings we have in our own local league is that we're failing to adjust to the standards, international standards. Our Premier League and our Division 1 have both sort of refused to get onto statistics. So when you don't have player statistics, half of your players don't get onto the systems like Transfer Market. So when clubs are looking for a player, they normally go onto these platforms like Transfer Market, which will have your statistics on it. It will explain what the player does, and video evidence as well. Some video evidence of how a player plays. The analysts and the scouts. A scout is not getting onto a flight to fly all the way to Zimbabwe to watch one game of a player playing and saying, I'm going to sign him. You've got to have this information that's readily available. So they compare everything nowadays.
So in theory, we could be part of the Transfer Market website, which, like I say, is the go-to for scouts, but we need the proper data.
Yeah, it's just statistical information, and it's very simple. I mean, I know for a fact that the association has been offered those sort of statistical packages. But the clubs, the individual clubs, don't see it as a primary issue.
Yeah.
You know, they think buying a bus or bringing in a big-name player is what attracts the fan. And I think if you look at our league, one of the problems we have is that our leagues are not run by professional clubs. A lot of them are social responsibility programs, right, or owned by wealthy individuals. A lot of these people don't need to sell a top player outside to continue the next year. There's a budget in place. But if they run on sustainable, you know, if they're forced to be sustainable, if they have to be forced to do club licensing and be sustainable, then they'll understand their need to have those statistics and also sell players to remain sustainable.
Oh, wow. Larry, weigh in. I know you've got lots to say on this.
Yeah, look, I agree with what Farai is saying. I think one of the biggest crises we have in Zimbabwean football is the recycling of players. We're using the same players over and over again, casting a blind eye on the importance of actually developing players at a young age, which is what is driving world football currently. You look at players like Kylian Mbappe at the age where he is and what he has achieved. It's a clear testimony of the importance of development. So it's something that we need to pay close attention to as a footballing nation.
So that model of trying to sell a player overseas here and there is good, but it shouldn't be your main focus as a club with your development of players.
Well, as a club, it's very important that you're continually developing and selling players. That's how, like we say, at the bottom line, you become sustainable. I mean, if we look at Dynamos and Highlanders, every single year they have to be bailed out financially from sponsors. But you would think that over these, 30, 40 years, they should have a chain of players who are going, and they should have, some kind of trust fund in place that, from the monies that they've made from all the players they've developed. And as long as we don't take it seriously or run football as a business, then we have a big issue.
So, Farai, you've also expressed that, for a young player, the PSL isn't really the best option. There's not much time for you to develop as a player. So the next option is to travel overseas and try to develop your football there. But an issue with, not just in football, with a lot of Zimbabwean sport is that our talent is always being exported. Well, not always. A lot of it is always is being exported elsewhere. How do you balance, giving your players from your academy their best opportunity, but also trying to develop Zimbabwean football on the same hand?
I think the most important thing is for a Zimbabwean player to grow up in Zimbabwe under our beautiful sun, play football here, get them deeply rooted, right? As long as there's no places for them to play, they will look to go outside. But if they were deeply rooted, if they know that their development happened from here, they'll always come back. Outside clubs are looking for younger and younger players because the cost of players is getting so high. Players are starting to cost 40, 50, 60 million pounds. The sweet spot for clubs is at 17.5 to 21. Those are the players that they're looking to sign, because if they can get them at a much lower cost and develop them into the World Cup world-class players, then they've saved themselves 40, 50 million. I think one of the things right now, we're working with a couple of local academies to set up an under-21 league. We want to set up that under-21 leagues to have a place where these players can definitely have work experience, because coming to the academy is like going to university. But then, everyone who leaves university, the first thing that when they go try to apply for a good job is like, what is your work experience? Yeah. So we've got to create this place where the kids get that work experience, where we can also maybe start developing the stats for the kids and the profiles for them, so that the world, because as we were talking before, football now is global. There are many leagues, many different leagues to play for. Not everyone's going to play for Manchester United, but there are leagues in Malta, there are leagues in Ireland, there are leagues in the Middle East. You can make a good career, make good money playing your football in all these different leagues. So we just have to help our kids get to that age where they have CVs and they can go to these leagues.
What's the strong point that Zimbabwean players have to offer to the rest of the world? I doubt if it's height. That's what a lot of scouts come to West Africa to look for. What's the strong point of a Zimbabwean footballer? I
think we've got grit. I also think we've got determination. the fact that our climate is so good that we can train throughout the year means that our physicality, and I can tell you this from having taken players overseas, our physicality is one of the things they like to see. You know, we get to run a lot more. We get to play outside a lot more. That
Like
physicality is exactly.
He runs and runs.
I'm so impressed with what Marshall has done with his career and where he is now, and also that ability. What I always say is that a good player can play any position, and we're seeing that from him. I'm very impressed with that.
Wow, yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a cry for youth development in football at the moment, but that's why you're doing your part the best you can for us. So thank you for the work you're doing, and you will continue to do. But Steve, you know, our Sables have touched down in Kampala. They'll be going up against Morocco very soon, and the Africa Cup is on the line. It's finally come around the corner. Enough talking about it. The time to act is now.
Yeah, so wishing the Sables all the best. Africa Cup, World Cup qualifiers this time. Let's just hope that our nemesis Namibia are not going to frustrate us once again, but wishing the Sables all the best over the next couple of weeks there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be crunch time for the Sables. As was rumoured last time, Namibia bringing a full-strength side team because there's the 2027 Sydney World Cup on the line. But I guess only time will tell. Hopefully, we will get to the final, not to count out Kenya. They're also a very strong setup. But now we've looked at beyond the pitch. Let us now go to Rumours and Rubbish, where we've got transfer windows and signings to discuss. So, Rumours and Rubbish, again, our disclaimer from the Fanzone admin. Rumours, we do have credible sources, but they are still yet to be fact-checked, or maybe true, maybe not, but they are rumours. And a bit of rubbish, just our own personal opinion on what we think is maybe right or wrong in Zimbabwean football space. But over the weekend, there was the Scotland vs Caps game at Rufaro, and boss Scott walked out on his own team.
Yeah.
10 minutes before the game ended. Steve, what do you think of this?
Yeah, well, that's in the rubbish category. Honourable Scott Sakopwania, the Scotland owner. I mean, the captain can't leave the ship when it's sinking. He's got to stay on the ship, and the ship is not sinking anyway. So this was very demotivating, disappointing for the players that Boss Scott left before the end of the match. It was only 1-0 anyway, and they did have the ball in the back of the net, but ruled out for offside just a few minutes after Scott had left with his entourage. He needs to know that you need patience in football. It takes time. Results will come, I'm sure, but I don't think that was a good reaction at all, Larry.
Indeed. Boss, like you rightly said, he is their leader. They look up to him. And you cannot walk out on your own team. There was still a lot of football to be played, by the way. 12 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. They had the chance to actually restore parity in the game. They even had the ball in the back of the net, like you rightly said, but it was disallowed for offside. Close call, by the way. But look, he needs to know that football is a game of patience. You need to understand that you lose some, you win some. It's just in the nature of football. You cannot really abandon your own team. So, yeah, I think he needs to understand that, the Honourable.
Yeah, so the dream of winning on your debut season, it's not that easy to achieve. You need patience.
Yeah, definitely. And more news coming from Scotland again. Rumours that they're looking maybe to move to Scottland Stadium in Matari. Larry, do you think this is true? And why would Scotland move from Rufaro?
Well, that would be interesting if it turns out to be true. But I think the motivating factor is the reception that they got in Mutare when they played Maniga Diamonds there. A huge crowd. Saguva was pegged. So maybe the idea is, since people don't like the team, when they play at Rufaro, even if they're at home, people will be cheering on the team that they'll be playing against. That has happened, like Tundra and Trai rightly said, since match day 1 against Triangle. It was strange to understand that Triangle had so much fans when they played against Scotland. So if it turns out to be true, it will be interesting. Whether or not it will work, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely a gamble because Scotland, they haven't won a game outside of Rufaro. So to try and, secure their new home ground at Sokuva, it will be a risk, right, Larry?
It will be a big risk, but, it's a gamble, like you rightly said. Whether or not it works, I'm not really sure. But it will be a very, very interesting decision if that it turns out to be true.
Yeah, lots going on in the Scotland camp. But Ishe Mouchi from Zimbabwe is being eyed by TS Galaxy, and possibly a rumour that he might transfer there. It does sound a bit more positive that he will leave. But it just depends on maybe do they want to pay the transfer fee or they wait until December when his contract ends.
Yeah, one of the tallest players in the PSL, very steady defender on the Soccer Star calendar last year. But Zimbabwean are getting ready to go into Africa. In the Champions League, you need height at the back when you're going to play in Africa. So it'll be a big blow if he goes. The offer might be too good to resist, but I hope they can keep him for the Champions League campaign. But by the looks of it, they might actually lose him.
Yeah, there'll be definitely a tough loss. And we had Farai Dhliwayo, the SG at Zimbabwean. He was saying that they're also looking for, size, a bit of muscle for the CAF champ. So to lose him would be a big loss. But also another rumour coming through, again, transfers, is Everson Faremba has been approached by Bulawayo Chiefs. And despite the fact that he scored the winner for Rumours FC, it's looking like he may be going to the D1 team.
Yeah.
Farai, as a coach, you've seen, maybe you haven't seen him, but Faremba, he was one of the starting players, but as the season has gone on, he's been put onto the benchmark and he struggled with game time. What would your advice be to Faremba?
Oh, I don't think I'm in a position to advise him, but as a fan looking in, I always love players at good teams to fight for their position. I think that competition, it not only helps him to improve, but it also helps the striker who's in form to stay sharp. And once that competition goes, maybe the striker who's in form starts losing some form because he's not feeling the pressure of the other player behind him who wants to take that position.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens. It will be quite tough though to leave Moors, at the top of the PSL to go into D1. Well, what do you think, Steve?
Well, we haven't seen this much of players going from the PSL to Division 1, especially mid-season, especially when they're playing well with big clubs. I think it's all a bit strange. It's good to see ambitious Division 1 clubs at the same time, though, Larry. Yeah?
Indeed, it's good, hey? But just to touch on the Faremba aspect, big striker, a very good striker, I would say. He struggled for game time, like you rightly said, Sips. There was even a time when he failed to make it to the actual matchday squad, which was a blow for him. But I think the goal that he scored against Bigida, it was a very, very important goal. I think that will revive his confidence to fight for a place in the Moors squad.
Yeah, and that was a goal poacher's goal from close range, came his way, finished it off very well.
Yeah, at the right place at the right time. But Farai, you were ecstatic when we announced this segment, Rumours and Rubbish, and you had a big smile on your face. So tell us any of the rumours that you have or you've heard from the football grapevine.
Maybe I can just share maybe two. Blessing Kagudu from Bikita. Blessing, who's coming up, definitely a future national team right back, moving from Bikita to Greenfields. And Highlanders, Panashe Mushonga, who's actually been on the books of Highlanders since the beginning of the year. I think you might be able to see him in the second half of the season playing for Highlanders.
Okay. Yeah, Highlanders definitely needing to boost their squad, yeah.
Yeah, well, definitely. There's always rumours and rubbish. Let us know your rumours if you disagree, what you think is rubbish. Let us know in the comments. But now that brings us to the end of our episode of Fanzone. Lawrence, thank you for coming on to the set, and Farai for sitting in the Fanzone with us. It's been a great time in the studio, a great call, and youth development needs to be had more in Zimbabwe. So thank you for shedding a little bit of light on that. But now with the end coming of Fanzone, thank you guys for staying. Subscribe if you like this channel. Also click that notification bell so you can be alerted every time we upload. We're also available on fanzone.co.zw, our main website where we publish daily sports articles. Also follow our WhatsApp channels. But this brings us to the end, and we will see you guys in the next Fanzone episode.